something just dawned on me. I think one of my predictions might not come true.
Oh, no.
I thought Monte would get his extension before the first game. I'm beginning to think he might not. Unless they announce it at tip in front of 17,000 people to a roaring ovation, I'm beginning to think that prediction.
Sacramento, this is your general manager.
So is that Nani, my daughter. Come on. At Nani. Yeah, I thought he would get one before the first game. I thought we were all we're talking about it too much. It's no big deal. I guess that's not happening.
It's not.
I didn't think he would. And I know a lot of people kept saying, oh, those things usually happen in August or September. Like,
no, I know, like you'd come in like, no, there's nothing. No, there's nothing. They're going to do it, James. They're going to do it. I don't think they are.
I kept checking. I haven't checked in a little while. But like, I don't get it. Like this is the one variable that you have coming into the season.
I guess it's see the results. I don't know that's a
but like
sketchy strategy, but I guess I get it.
But James pointed it out, and I know we got to get out of here in a second.
No, we're fine. We can keep going.
Okay. But James pointed it out. He made Monte McNair. He made too many major moves to pull the plug on them before they even really get started.
Yeah.
When you talk about you said it earlier, you talk about the Halliburton trade for Sabonis. You talk about making a decision with the number 4 pick. Those are moves that he's got to be around.
Well, then there's the other big one. He gave up their first round pick for Herter, and it's not a 2023, it's a 24. But again, it's lottery. It's top 14 and 24, top 12 and 22 and 2025, top 10 in 2026, and then it dissolves into 2 seconds, I think. But still, you gave him that ability, and we can argue it all day long. It becomes some weird topic when I say this, but the Kings can't trade their first round pick for the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's Monty's move. So again, you let him make the gigantic trade, you let him draft the number 4 pick, and then you let him make the trade for Herter. And so those are all things that tie you up. And basically this is his team. So when we talked about when he took over this team, it was Vlade's team. If he would have brought back Bogdanovich and he would have brought back Len and would have brought back Bazemore that first time, well, that's still Vlade's team. You're just walking into the next season with Vlade's team. So I get it. But now this is fully his team. I mean, there's only 3 players left from the Vlade Divac era, which was just 2 years ago in September. That's when Monty got hired. It was in September of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So we only have 3 players left: Harrison Barnes, De'Aaron Fox, and Richaun Holmes from that team.
The crazy thing about all this is, for the first time, and it feels like a long time, no matter how they got here or whatever, it feels like the Kings, Vivek, whoever's the decision maker, they have an opportunity to do it the right way. It's here. It's right here in front of him. You got a GM. He's found his head coach. He's hired his head coach. He's made the trades that he wanted to make to build this roster. He's built the roster. You have an opportunity to finally, first time since Pete got here, I guess, where you can do it the right way. How can you pass up this opportunity that's standing right in front of you? And that's with me saying, I don't even know how this year's going to turn out. I don't know if Monte is necessarily good or not, but the process, the way you get there is finally in line. How can you pass it up? And not saying he will, but I mean, the fact that he isn't signed means that it could still happen.
Well, and I'll point out the other side of it. We're also right at that same exact spot where he can choose to do the same damn thing he did the previous 2 times. He can do it, just make the same mistake again. And you're just looking at do you not see that that's kind of where you're at? You could, you're right there. You have your coach, you have your GM, you have your team that's building, you have a bunch of 24 through 26-year-olds. It's not just about this year. It's about this year and the next 4 years, 5 years, where you could be building something. I mean, Fox and Herter are both locked up your starting backcourt is locked up for 4 years. Like, this is that moment. Your starting power forward is about to start his rookie season. Like, you have control of him for like 7 or 8 years. Like, basically, everything is right there. Or you can choose chaos and do the same exact thing you did.
That's not chaos. That's stupidity.
Well, okay. But it's the same thing you did with Dave Yeager. It's the same
Yep.
thing you did with Luke Walton, where you had a
So
general
it's
manager.
consistent stupidity.
Well, it's just not learning.
Yeah.
Like, it's not learning. And that's a problem. That's the bigger problem out of anything,
Right.
is if you repeat the same mistakes, like, then you don't understand history. Or you think that you can somehow ignore history and survive it again. Like, you just keep making the same mistakes.
You do it again now. Everything everybody says about you is fair. Because, like I said, you have an opportunity just right here in front of you to not do the same thing. And if you do it again, everything that other people, Uncle V, I like Uncle V, but everything they say about you is fair if you do it again.
Yeah, but I'll even say this, like, the question is, do they make the playoffs or not? And maybe that's what they're waiting to decide this thing.
Oh, that's
So
crazy.
So let's just
man.
go back to that. If they don't make the playoffs, now we're looking at year 17 and starting over with someone else. And I don't care if they say, oh, well, we didn't really start over. We chose someone else on his staff and we went a different direction that way. Like, if they decide to, like, no,
that wasn't subtle.
No,
that wasn't subtle at all.
like, here comes the flamethrower. Like,
we're not starting over. We chose someone else on the staff. Wow, who could James be talking about?
yeah,
At Nani.
No, he's talking about Wes Wilcox.
yeah, but that's what my point is. So, like, that's
Nani's in a couple years.
Because it doesn't matter who, like, those are Monte's moves, because Monte is the only one talking to us. Like, you can talk to Wes, but Monte is the only guy that's at a press conference. Monte is standing there by himself. He's up there when they draft Keegan Murray. That Keegan Murray pick, that's Monte McNair. If Keegan Murray's the rookie of the year, you cannot. It doesn't matter if you make the playoffs or not. You cannot fire Monte McNair.
Well, especially when Tyrese Halliburton is the greatest player that ever existed.
Well,
now you got your 2 draft picks.
Hey, if even if he's not the greatest player that ever existed, you drafted Tyrese Halliburton, you turned him into a 2-time 25-year-old all-star in Domantas Sabonis. He's 26 now, but when you traded for him, that's how good your draft pick was, that you were not only were you able to get a 2-time all-star in Sabonis for Halliburton, you were able to dump Buddy Hield's contract in that trade.
That is never covered when discussing Tyrese Halliburton.
So how about that? Ever that you still owe that guy $40 million? Well, actually they don't. But Pacers do.
That's your problem.
43 million.
Stay tuned. It will soon be the Lakers. It will soon be the Lakers. Oh, LeBron said they need shooting.
What LeBron said? Well, it's pretty clear we don't have any.
We don't have those shooters. We need Monte McNair.
Sorry, Kendrick. No, you can't shoot.
Yeah, I just, like, I hate, like, looking at it and going, oh man, how is this thing gonna work out? Just do the right thing. Just like get out of your own way. Like there are moments. I've said it so many times where if you would have just let Dave Yeager come back and coach another year, there wouldn't be a 16-year playoff drought. If you wouldn't have fired Mike Malone,
who knows where we'd be if they hadn't fired
there's
Mike
a good
Malone.
chance that we would not be looking at a 16-year playoff drought. If
if I'm not mistaken, you don't fire Mike Malone, there's a good chance the Kings don't even have the NBA record.
No.
Right? Because it would be Minnesota.
2015.
If you thought highly enough of Mike Malone, which I think everyone did.
There are so many moments in this thing where it's not just like one huge mistake cost them. They did that one as well.
For sure.
Like by not drafting Luka, they also made that mistake. The one gigantic one that you could not. I mean, you would be a playoff team like 8 times over. Well, actually 4 times over at this point. Like there's no way that you wouldn't have been a playoff team by now. But it's also the little ones. It's, again, the bubble. If the bubble doesn't happen, Vlade doesn't get fired most likely. And we're not looking at the same exact outcome. And again, if you don't fire Dave Yeager and you let him have another season after, getting up to 39 wins, what happens the next year where you're building on something and his staff is coaching like what we're seeing with Mike Brown's staff right now. So
let's go, baby. No mistakes this year. No repeating mistakes. No doing the same dumb things over and over and over again. Like,
come on.
Man, the Mike Malone one. I thought Dave Yeager was building something. I thought Dave Yeager was building something too. I never understood the Dave Yeager hiring. I always thought that was weird. Like, he was in Memphis, and you've talked about this before, that Vlade interviewed, I think, 450 people. He interviewed like 225 of those 450 people twice. And then Dave is out of Memphis, which is weird. And then all of a sudden he's here like days later, which is weird. And it's like, all right, that's weird. But Dave was obviously a good coach in Memphis. How does this turn out? Dave Yeager would have a winning record in the NBA if he wasn't the Kings coach. Like, he was a 50-win coach every year for like 3 years.
He's a very good coach. He did take over a really defined veteran team. And then he basically there was, from what I know, there was a phone call like on a Friday and said, "Hey, I think we can get Dave Yeager out of Memphis. Are you interested?" And boom, 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 boom. By Sunday, he was the head coach of the Kings. He was in Sacramento on Saturday. Deal was done. Buyout in Memphis, and he was the head coach of the Sacramento Kings.
When you talk about the domino effect and all this other stuff, I think you told us about this, James. That goes into, didn't Vlade do all the research in the world at that point? And then they were like, "Oh, Dave Yeager's available. Go hire him."
Yeah, it was done. I mean,
Dave Yeager's buyout led to Luke Walton being hired.
Well, then
no, it does.
But that's the other thing, though, right? Because Vlade did all his homework, and then somebody came in and said, "Oh, hire Dave Yeager."
Yeah,
and then the second time, he's like, "I'm not doing all this homework. I like Luke Walton. That's who I'm going to go get."
It's Christmas. We all know that guy's being fired. I'm hiring
Last
him.
time I did all this homework, you guys just told me to hire somebody anyway. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he brought in 12 guys. He brought in, I think, like 8 guys had come in for second interviews. And he had some good coaches. Like, I mean, Nate McMillan, part of that group. I don't know, Patrick Ewing had come in for an interview. There were a lot of good coaches that were on the list. And sure enough, it went different. So, yeah, I mean, that's just where I talk about, like, there's so many moments in time where you can go back and just circle and say, okay, well, what would have happened if this didn't happen? What would have happened if Scott Perry wouldn't have left? Because the outcome of
Scott
what
Perry,
happened
the general
Scott
manager
Perry,
for like 2.5 months,
the assistant general manager, who
for
helped
2
draft
months.
a bunch of players and all that stuff, and then goes
and
to
then
the
left.
Knicks.
And
then left. But it's not only that; like, he leaves, and the ripple effect after that is, the hiring of Brandon
people
Williams.
don't like it was the relationships. Like, he was a relationship guy. Like, he had relationships
all over
across
the league.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then when he left, those relationships went with him.
Yeah. No, it's tough. Like, there's always a moment in time where you just go, man, it just you miss by so little.
Yeah.
But we've kicked out of that.
We're out of it.
I think.
We're out of it.
I think we've kicked
King's
out of
about
it.
to do work starting tonight.